Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is your friend No Way. Why I'm making this video is I have had a lot of inquiries and a lot of the people I used to be involved with asking me to get back into podcasting. And it is kind of funny that these people that want me back, they don't listen to my content now. You know, they're just not those people that listen to videos, a lot of videos and stuff, and a few do, but most don't. The thing is, and for the handful of people that do, you know, they're good fans. They listen to me on what I put up on YouTube and the other channels where I put other content from, you know, the revealed films and stuff. Now, for this one here, I want you to know I'm not editing this talking with you, and I think it's only fair or courteous of you people to understand what has gone on and why I don't do these podcasts that I used to do. You know, the big audiences, large fan base, all of this that I used to have. And, you know, more or less, well, like the saying goes, I've been there, done that. But I want you people to understand why and what it is about me, of why I do. I don't do video after video after video, and when I have something to say and it's on my mind, and I'll tell you that, you know, God puts it in my heart, and the Holy Spirit won't leave me alone until I get it out on a video. But you need to understand what it is I go through. I do have lung disease, and I function every day, and I live my life right now with only 40% of my lung function. That's all I have left. And there's a reason behind it, and it's not what, you know, all the medical people and the eugenicists of our world today blame everything on. I do have a genetic defect that has destroyed my lungs. And every week I do get an IV infusion, which is called augmented therapy, to put a protein enzyme into my bloodstream. And I will say that it has helped tremendously in pretty much slowing down to almost stopping the degradation of my lungs. But by the time they decided to check for it, I had already lost 60% of my lung function. Like I say, I'm not going to edit these parts, so if I lose my breath and hard for me to speak, here in a minute you will know why. I got this small video off in the foundation that is taking care of this augmentation, this weekly IV infusion, that I have a nurse that comes right here every week The foundation sends all the medical supplies to have the IV done. And once a month, I get 4 doses of this medication, this protein, this stuff that my body don't produce. And but the shortness of breath, the coughing, the hacking, what you don't see in my video is I edit that stuff all out. So this is how I live my life, and this is what God has seen to it that, well, this is what you have. This is it. All the years of the construction, and yes, I was a heavy smoker my whole life. I mean, so many people were from the 70s and stuff. They pushed it on us, and and we thought it was cool. And if it wasn't for this genetic defect, then I'd still be going strong, and I'd still be the bull that I always was. But that's just, life throws you a curve, and you deal with what had happened. But I think it's time that you understand who I am and why I do what I do now, and why I don't do the podcast that I used to do. The podcast I used to do was very popular on many different platforms, and that carried it, and I had a very large following from many countries, and it was a lot of pressure, but I put up with it, and sorry for the breathing now and stuff, and I'm not going to edit it. So this is me. This is what I go through. This is how I have to live my life every day. But it is what it is, and there is nothing else to it. So now here is an explanation of what my problem is, what my defect, basically my genetic defect, is. And I'll explain a little more after you see this.
Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency is a genetic disorder where a protein called alpha-1 antitrypsin is defective or absent. The name alpha-1 antitrypsin is a holdover from when the protein was discovered, a name given before its function was actually known. As it turns out, alpha-1 antitrypsin is a protease inhibitor that inactivates elastase, which is a type of protease, an enzyme that breaks down other proteins. Since alpha-1 antitrypsin inactivates elastase, elastase can't break down elastin. So alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency leads to the opposite case, elastin breakdown, which particularly affects the lungs. In addition, defective alpha-1 antitrypsin can cause damage to the liver. Now in the lungs, let's zoom in on a tiny alveolus, which is where gas exchange happens. If there's some sort of infection or other cause of inflammation, inflammatory cells like neutrophils arrive on the scene. Neutrophils make an enzyme called neutrophil elastase, a protease capable of breaking down elastin, which is an extracellular matrix protein that gives elasticity and strength to the lung tissues. So while these little guys can help fight off infection by breaking down proteins of the bacteria, they can also go on to break down that precious elastin. Fortunately, the liver makes alpha-1 antitrypsin, which gets released into the blood and sent to the lungs, where it inhibits neutrophil elastase, inactivating it before it can break down the protein elastin. Without alpha-1 antitrypsin, the opposite happens. Neutrophil elastase goes unchecked, and it damages the walls of the alveoli. And without that elastin, the alveoli lose their elasticity and structural integrity. Zooming out a bit and looking at the acinus, which is a bunch of alveoli, it just turns into one big cavity. This destruction and enlargement of the air spaces is called emphysema. It turns out that emphysema can develop in a couple different ways, and alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency causes pan-acinar emphysema, meaning the whole acinus is affected, and it also tends to affect the lungs' lower lobes the most. Another effect of unchecked inflammation in alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency is chronic bronchitis and bronchiectasis, two conditions resulting from chronic airway inflammation. So alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency can lead to emphysema, bronchiectasis, and chronic bronchitis, all types of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Another more common cause of COPD is smoking, and if someone with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency also smokes, they tend to get an earlier onset of COPD than they would have otherwise, an example of a gene-environment interaction. The gene that encodes alpha-1 antitrypsin protein is called SERPINA1, which stands for serine protease inhibitor, clade A, member 1, which is found on the long arm of chromosome 14. While some mutations in SERPINA1 completely abolish the gene's message, meaning no protein gets made, others, like the most common mutation called PiZ, result in a misfolded alpha-1 antitrypsin protein being made. Misfolded alpha-1 antitrypsin can aggregate and get stuck in the endoplasmic reticulum of the liver hepatocytes where it's made, causing some of those cells to die. Now, each wild type or normal copy of alpha-1 antitrypsin protein, termed PIM, contributes 50% of normal alpha-1 antitrypsin or A1AT activity, meaning 2 normal copies gets you 100%, which just means that there's a normal amount of alpha-1 antitrypsin in the blood. If instead they had 1 normal copy and 1 mutant copy, or Z, abbreviated PIMZ, the mutated gene only contributes about 10% of normal amounts. So these individuals only have about 60% the normal levels, which is usually enough to protect the lungs in non-smokers. If both copies of the gene were mutant Z copies, then typically there's only 15 to 20% of normal levels, which results in alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. While there is some increased risk of lung and liver injury in PIMZ individuals, severe deficiency with these 2 mutant genes gives these individuals a much higher risk of lung and liver disease. Having said that, though, some people with PiZZ deficiency can live their entire lives with no lung or liver disease, if their environmental exposures are minimal. Symptoms of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency typically involve the lungs and liver. The changes in the lungs that cause chronic obstructive pulmonary disease can result in shortness of breath, as well as wheezing, mucus production, and a chronic cough. The death of liver cells can ultimately lead to cirrhosis, a process in which normal liver tissue is replaced with scar tissue. Cirrhosis can ultimately lead to a number of complications, including an inability to make coagulation factors, difficulty with detoxification leading to a buildup of waste products that can cause hepatic encephalopathy, portal hypertension that can lead to esophageal varices, and an increase in the risk of a type of liver cancer called hepatocellular carcinoma. Although cirrhosis usually affects adults, even newborns can have complications, like jaundice, which is a buildup of bilirubin in the blood because of poor excretion by the liver. A very small minority of infants who are born with 2 Z genes can develop liver failure during their first years of life and require a liver transplant. If, though, somebody has a mutant SERPINA1 that results in no alpha-1 antitrypsin, as opposed to the misfolded ones that get stuck, then they typically don't have liver disease. Diagnosis of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency often starts with a chest X-ray or chest CT scan to look for hyperinflated lungs or evidence of damaged lung tissue. In addition, pulmonary function testing can be used to measure how quickly air exits the lungs, which can be slower than normal. The level of alpha-1 antitrypsin in the blood can also be measured. Cirrhosis caused by alpha-1 antitrypsin can be diagnosed with liver ultrasound or a liver biopsy. When evaluating a biopsy, microscopic sections of liver tissue are stained with a combination of 2 reagents called periodic acid Schiff, or PAS. This test stains glycoproteins like alpha-1 antitrypsin a pink color. The tissue is also exposed to diastase, which is an enzyme that normally destroys a lot of glycoproteins. But since alpha-1 antitrypsin is stuck and hidden away in the endoplasmic reticulum, diastase can't get to it, and so it's diastase resistant. So we say that they be periodic acid shift positive, or PAS positive, as well as diastase resistant. In terms of treatment, augmentation therapy is where you give intravenous infusions of normal alpha 1 antitrypsin protein purified from the blood of healthy plasma donors. This doesn't cure the lung disease, but it does slow or halt its progression. So other therapies for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, like inhalers and supplemental oxygen, are often needed as well. Supplementing the deficient protein in the blood doesn't fix the liver problems, since they're caused by defective alpha 1 antitrypsin building up in the hepatocytes. So standard treatments for cirrhosis are usually needed, like lactulose to prevent hepatic encephalopathy. Alright, as a quick recap. In alpha 1 antitrypsin deficiency, the alveoli in the lungs are damaged by neutrophil elastase, since there's insufficient alpha 1 antitrypsin to counter it, causing chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And in the liver, misfolded alpha 1 antitrypsin builds up, killing hepatocytes and leading to cirrhosis.
Okay, now, as you see, that is the alpha 1 deficiency. And if, on there, I am ZZ, meaning I have 2 defective genes from both sides. So I don't have liver disease or liver problems, but it destroyed my lungs, is what it did. And this is why now I had to give up the podcasting. How can I sit there and do a live show when I'm out of breath? It gets hard for me to speak over a long period of time, and the hacking, all of a sudden it'll just a bunch of mucus and stuff will all of a sudden loosen up, and I'll be right in the middle of talking and I just start hacking. And you can't do a live show when this stuff is going on. You're doing a live show, you're getting points, and then after the hacking, it's just, and until I can get my breath back. And it could take 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and it's just, I refuse to do a show that way. It's not just that it's hard on me, but people that are listening, they deserve the show that I used to do. Here it is, here's the facts, here's the reasoning behind it, here's what's going on, and this, and and you go through that topic and you break that topic down. So this is why I do what I do now. And a lot of times I don't have the breath. I don't have the energy, because it tires me out so much during the day, taking care of my son's dog and everything, and I enjoy taking care of the dog, but it takes a lot out of me. And if there's times that I just can't sleep because I can't lay down, because I can't breathe when I lay down, then I lose a lot of sleep, and I get very overtired, and I get very fatigued from it. So I pick away at things, and I live my life, and I'll do whatever I can, but I'm very limited. And that's why sometimes I'll sit down, and what you don't see, you may see it in some of my videos, it seems like a little glitch. It's because I had to take a whole section out, because I couldn't breathe, and I was hacking and coughing and clearing out my throat and catching my breath, and I'm pausing it, and then I'm starting it again, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cut out. If I have, say, 25 minutes of me talking, what a lot of people don't realize is there's probably a good half hour to 45 minutes to sometimes an hour worth of taping that has been taken out. If I'm getting to a point or making a point about something and I start losing my breath, I start, wheezing real hard and everything, then I cut that out and I piece in where I started going again with it. But that's all I can do. And but I felt it was time for the handful, 150, 200 people through all my channels that enjoy my content. When I figure that through all these platforms, a couple hundred people are listening to it, and they're coming back every time, and they're listening to my next one and this and that, then the common courtesy and kindness, hey, that's more people than most churches today, and that's fine with me. I don't need a big audience. I've been there, done that. And it's over. My life has moved on. I'm pushing 60. So, I'm not a young man anymore, and people of my age and stuff, it takes us a little longer to recover from a bad trip. I'll put it that way. But out of all of you, thank you for those that do. And, and I'll keep going as long as God sees fit to keep me on this earth. I'll put it that way. It's as long as God sees fit to keep me on this earth, I will put out videos from time to time, and the truth is the truth, and we need that truth. And the more that this totalitarian world is out to destroy anybody that does not follow them, all my hope is that I can lead more of you to the truth in Christ, and how to be as godly and as righteous as you possibly can, and to see through the lies, and to stop listening to those that are only in this for a popularity contest. Your soul don't matter. They matter. They matter to themselves. Me, you matter to me. You do. Your soul. I want to see your soul go to heaven, where it deserves to be. But you need that truth, and you need correction from time to time. Just as I do, and just as I get from people. And it's a nice network of people. There's some people I wish would have a little more caring, and there are people I would like to talk to, and just how's things. But they choose not to, and it's okay. But how much longer I have on this earth, that's up to God. But for the time that I do have left, I'm going to live the life that I have to the fullest that I can, and do what I can, because there is no more. It is what it is. So I hope I didn't bore you too bad, and I hope for some of you, you have an understanding of who I am and the kind of person I am, and why I do what I do. Because I do it for you. I do it for your soul and your betterment of life and righteousness and godliness, to turn from this world that will only destroy you. So until next time, God willing, this is No Way Out.